Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yamuna Tira Vanam Sari Yamuna Tira Vanam Sari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamuna Tira Vanam Sari Jamuna Tira Vanam Sari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Gaur Premanandi Jai Vishupad Paramahamsa Sri Radhika Sadhya Stotra Sutta Sri Srimad Bhagavatam Canto Srila Bhai Charan Narvin Bhakti Raghava Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki Nanta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Skandagiti Founder Acharya of Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Harinam Sankirtana Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Tiny Thai Gold of Himanandi all glorious to the assembled devotees, all glorious to the assembled devotees, all glorious to the assembled devotees, all glorious to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga, all glorious to Sri Prabhupada Ki. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Sarakaya Taksurmiritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Parakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Rarita Sri Visakanditam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Vyaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Dharam Chaiva Narotamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer our respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Nara, Narayana Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesha badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, And loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahmasamitam Tamasloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Yeshreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasyayanam Mahat. The Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Granthara, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, the Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Sri Vasadi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Srabhyay Namaha. Om Srabhyay Namaha. Om Srabhyay Namaha. Mukham karoti vasalam pangum langayate girim. Yat kripatamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Yat kripatamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to our ongoing discourse on Srimad Bhagavatam from Canto number 1, chapter 16, text number 4. Yeah. So someone is translating. Bangla, yeah. No Hindi here. Huh? Yes. Nijagraha Ojasa Viraha Kalim Digvijayi Kvachit Nripa Linga Dharam Śūdram Pranantam Go Mitunham Pada Nijagraho Jasavira Kalim Digvijaye Kvachit Nripalinga Dharam Śūdram Gnantam Go Mitunam Pada Nijagraho Jasavira Kalim Digvijaye Kvachit Nripalinga Dharam Śūdram Gnantam Go Mitunam Pada Nijagraho Jasavira Kalim Digvijaye Kvachit Nripalinga Dharam Śūdram Gnantam Go Mitunam Pada Nijagraho Jasavira Kalim Digvijaye Kvachit Dikalinga Dharam Shudram Grantam Gomitunam Pada
Nijgrahau Jasa Viraha
Nijagrahau Jasa Viraha
Kalim Digvijaye Kvachit
Kalim Digvijaye Kvachit
Niplinga Dharam Shudram
Nipalinga Dharam Shudram
Nantam Go Mithunam Pada
Nantam Gomitunam Pada
Nijagrahau Jasa Vira
Nijagrahau Jasa Vira
Kalim Digvijaye Kvachit
Kalim Digvijaye Kvachit
Nipalinga Dharam Shudram
Nipalinga Dharam Shudram
Grantam Go Mithunam Pada
Grantam Gomitunam Pada
Nijgrahau Jasa Vira
Nijagrahau Jasa Vira
Kalim Digvijaye Kvachit
Kalim
Digvijaye Kvachit Nipalinga Dharam Shudram
Nipalinga Dharam Shudram
Gnantam Go Mithunam Pada
Grantam Gomitunam Pada
Nijgraho Jasa Vira
Nijagrahau Jasa Vira
Kalim Digvijaye Kvachit
Kalim Digvijaye Kvachit
Nipalinga Dharam Shudram
Nipalinga Dharam Shudram
Nantam Go Mithunam Pada
Grantam Gomitunam Pada Gurukul Gurukul
Nijgraho Jasa Vira
Kalim Digvijaye Kvachit Nipalinga Dharam Shudram Nantam Gomitunam Pada Mataji Mataji Nijagrahau Jasa Vira Kalim Digvijaye Kvachit Nipalinga Dharam Shudram Nantam Gomitunam Pada Nijagraha Sufficiently punished Ojasa by prowess Viraha valiant hero Kalim unto Kali the master of the age Digvijaye in his way to conquer the world yeah. On his way to conquer the world Kvachit once upon a time Nripalinga Dharam one who passes in the dress of a king Śūdram the lower class Grantam hurting Gomithunam a cow and bull Pada on the leg. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Sri Bhakti Raghava Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Once when Maharāja Parīkṣit was on his way to conquer the world, he saw the master of Kali-yuga, who was lower than the śūdra, disguised as a king and hurting the legs of a cow and bull. The king at once caught hold of him to deal sufficient punishment. Kindly repeat after me. Once when Maharāja Parīkṣit was on his way to conquer the world, he saw the master of Kali-yuga, who was lower than a śūdra, disguised as a king and hurting the legs of a cow and bull. The king at once caught hold of him to deal sufficient punishment. Purport. The purpose of a king's going out to conquer the world is not for self-aggrandizement. Maharāja Parīkṣit went out to conquer the world after his ascendance to the throne, but this was not for the purpose of aggression on other states. He was the emperor of the world, and all small states were already under his regime. His purpose in going out was to see how things were going in terms of the godly state. The king, being the representative of the Lord, has to execute the will of the Lord duly. There is no question of self-aggrandizement. Thus, as soon as Maharāja Parīkṣit saw that a lower class man in the dress of a king was hurting the legs of a cow and a bull, at once he arrested and punished him. The king cannot tolerate insults to the most important animal, the cow, nor can he tolerate disrespect for the most important man, the Brahmana. Human civilization means to advance the cause of brahminical culture and to maintain it. Cow protection is essential. There is a miracle in milk, for it contains all the necessary vitamins to sustain human physiological conditions for higher achievements. Brahminical culture can advance only when man is educated to develop the quality of goodness. And for this, there is a prime necessity of food prepared with milk, fruits, and grains. Maharāja Parīkṣit was astonished to see that a black śūdra, dressed like a ruler, was mistreating a cow, the most important animal in human society. The age of Kali means mismanagement and quarrel. And the root cause of all mismanagement and quarrel is the worthless men with the modes of lower class men who have no higher ambition in life come to the helm of the state management. I'll read that again. And the root cause of all mismanagement and quarrel is that worthless men with the modes of lower class men who have no higher ambition in life come to the helm of the state management. Such men at the post of a king are sure to first hurt the cow and the Brahminical culture, thereby pushing all society towards hell. Maharāja Parīkṣit, trained as he was, got the sense of this root cause of all quarrel in the world. Thus he wanted to stop it in the very beginning. Translation again. Once, when Maharāja Parīkṣit was on his way to conquer the world, he saw the master of Kali-yuga, who was lower than a śūdra, disguised as a king and hurting the legs of a cow and bull. The king at once caught hold of him to deal sufficient punishment. Very pertinent purport and a very essential, crucial topic that requires more understanding than we generally have, even as devotees, in regards to what constitutes or what are the we could say foundational pillars for actually establishing and maintaining Vedic culture. So these are being explained here very clearly by Srila Prabhupada. And it is directly connected with those who are meant to rule society, means leaders. In Vedic culture, they are referred as kshatriyas. There's a very clear message being given here how leaders are actually meant to see that their kingdom is ruled by the principles of Dharma. There is no such artificial separation as we find today. The famous phrase that is often repeated, separation of state and church. This has become a standard, we could say, policy in all the countries of the world, without properly understanding what that actually means. Separation of state and church means that is the common, we could say, misunderstanding that is prevalent in the world today. What is not properly understood is that actually countries, leaders of different countries are meant to govern according to the principles of Dharma, not favoring one particular belief over another belief, but having basic understanding of the principles of Dharma, which is because nowadays people in general around the world they have not been introduced to the concepts of Dharma. People are caught up in religious beliefs, which as Prabhupada one time referred to a statement from his own Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that religion without philosophy tends to become fanaticism, whereas philosophy without religion simply remains mental speculation. So we have these two positions. People who don't believe in the basic principles of Dharma, means people who don't believe in God in general, they are simply on the mental platform. And those who have some notion, some understanding, some appreciation of the concept of God, but are lacking in philosophy, are lacking in theology also, they tend to be sentimentalists and very often end up being fanatic. So both positions are actually very dangerous, very detrimental to the world, and that is where we are today in the world. We are we are under the influence largely of leaders who are in one of these two categories. And therefore, the two most important living entities, as mentioned here by Srila Prabhupada in the purport, that need to be given the most protection and most respect, number one, are the cows. And secondly, brahmanas, people who are actually practicing and meant to teach and establish the principles of Dharma. And therefore, again, as Prabhupada rightly points out, this is a perfect formula for creating a hellish condition in the world, which is what we have actually. And therefore, whenever the principles of Dharma are neglected or rejected, not followed, it makes for an extremely difficult situation for those who have knowledge about Dharma, for those who are endeavoring to follow the principles of Dharma. So in other words, those who have this knowledge, this understanding, which is presented very systematically in the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam, as very nicely explained by our Vaishnava Acharyas, understand that one of the most urgent necessities in the world is to actually introduce in a very methodical and very systematic way this this knowledge or these principles of Dharma. And when we read a purport like this one, we become even more it becomes even more clear how there is an urgent necessity to introduce Varnashram College, because it is, that's why Srila Prabhupada, being the visionary that he was, could understand that unless we also understand how society is meant to be organized, how society is meant to be, how leaders in society are meant to be trained, then society will continue to be misled by people who are just unqualified.
We have to little bit move the translation because otherwise devotees are not able to hear. हेडफोन हेडफोन है हेडफोन कोई हेडफोन दे दो.
It means that those who are not in that have to be more attentive and more concentrated on hearing and on choosing the sound vibration. Yeah. And obviously in this this whole chapter, and there are so many similar chapters, there are so many similar instructions and examples in the Srimad Bhagavatam of kings. I mean, we hear so many instructions, so many stories of great personalities, generally either kings or brahmanas, from which we are meant to understand how, unless we have these two, and that was Prabhupada's always reminding us and trying to get us to understand this whole basic idea that unless we have very qualified brahmanas as well as very qualified kshatriyas, we cannot be satisfied with only qualified brahmanas or only with qualified kshatriyas. Both are absolutely essential for a society to properly be directed. And I have not had a chance yet, but there are references apparently in the Mahabharata, in the whole discourse of grandfather Bhishma Dev, where he speaks very extensively to Yudhishthira Maharaj, as we know. And whereby devotees, and whereby grandfather Bhishma Dev himself, and one devotee has pulled out some of these references, which I'm anxious to find out, whereby grandfather Bhishma Dev explains that of all the four varnas, there are four varnas, the most important varna, Hare Krishna.
It's very important, so it's echoing everywhere.
Yeah, right. Of all the four varnas, the most important varna is the Kshatriya varna.
Not Brahman.
I hope Brahmanas will not be offended by this. This is coming from one of our 12 Mahajans. So, and I hope to have the references maybe sooner than later, yeah. Why? Because actually Kshatriyas, they also go to Gurukul. Kshatriyas are also meant to represent very directly and to uphold the principles of Dharma, isn't it? They are the direct representatives of the Lord. Yeah. As a matter of fact, they are meant to be treated like brahmanas also as good as the Lord. And therefore, without their presence, they are meant to actually execute. I'm always reminded of a small anecdote that took place in our temple in Montreal when I happened to be the temple president quite some years back. And, we always think that, devotees and Vaishnavas, we are like the top, in society.
Right.
Actually, Vaishnavas are also the top, but at the same time, this small anecdote kind of helped me to understand something. Our temple, like any temple in any big city in the world, is one building amongst thousands of buildings in the city. And for that matter, it's like in a village, there's usually one or two temples, but there's so many other constructions or buildings and whatnot. So one day, one representative of the city, because cities like villages also are governed by different administrators. So they have a duty and responsibility, knowing that an institution like ours, this I believe was in the context of Rath Yatra or some big festival, where we prepare large quantities of food and we distribute in the public. So leaders in the community, in the municipality, they are responsible for the well-being of all the citizens. So they occasionally come to check what standard we have of cleanliness and fire prevention, all of these things. So they had come to survey and investigate our standard in our kitchen. And I remember as they were leaving, they had some little little poster that they placed. They glued it actually inside the kitchen, and the poster was about cleanliness, cleaning your hands, washing your hands before touching food and all that, I mean, cleanliness is one of the 4 pillars of Dharma that we as devotees are meant to be, teaching to others. But here was, somebody else teaching us. Yeah. The standard of cleanliness, because that's the duty and responsibility of heads of state and people who are responsible, for the welfare of society. So a small example to indicate how, yes, Prabhupada also explains how one of the duties and responsibilities of leaders and society is to make sure that if you claim to be following a particular belief, then you have to actually follow that belief. If you claim to be a Christian, you should follow the rules of Christianity, etc., like that. In other words, the principles of Dharma are meant to be enacted and meant to be put into practice by kshatriyas, by leaders in society, supported naturally, supported and guided by the brahmanas, and guided by Vaishnava brahmanas in particular. So this means that actually this regretful situation, unfortunate situation in which we find ourselves in the world can only be addressed, can only be properly corrected if we train individuals who will become both, especially qualified brahmanas and kshatriyas. Of course, we need qualified all around. We need qualified brahmanas, qualified kshatriyas, qualified vaishyas, and qualified shudras. When we read the description by Narada Muni in the 7th canto of the Bhagavatam, where he speaks about the different qualities, there are 9 qualities for shudra. It is not at all easy to actually become a qualified shudra. And unfortunately, we have all kinds of negative, wrong understanding of what a shudra is, mostly because we don't have qualified shudras. But actually, qualified shudras are very important, or actually we could say essential in a society to function properly. Now, of course, from our Vaishnava Acharya's perspective, everyone, regardless of one's social position in society, is meant to become a devotee or a Vaishnava. And that's why we are meant to introduce and to promote the whole concept of Daiva Varnashrama. But Daiva Varnashrama doesn't mean that we neglect the different natural divisions in society. But within Daiva Varnashrama, we are meant to introduce, of course, always keeping the primary goal of everyone becoming a devotee, but we are meant to introduce the various sciences that will help individuals become properly trained, and so that they can take up and execute the various duties and responsibilities either of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra. So this is one of many important purports that we hear, that we read about in the Bhagavatam, where again and again Srila Prabhupada is is emphasizing the need of training individuals in different roles or responsibilities within society. So when people minimize the importance of varnashrama dharma, then it means they're not reading many of these purports in the Bhagavatam, or not reading them properly, or not understanding them. So how do we go about doing all of that is what we need to understand and then put into practice. Some thoughts or ideas or suggestions? Yes.
You are telling us that the most important man is the Brahmana. But we know that there are different types of Brahmanas. So what is the quality when we understand that that person should be very specially cared for by the leaders, of course. So when we accept someone as being a Brahmana, or just a teacher or wise man, everyone is a Brahmana who is teaching, or Brahmana have a specific qualifications which they can check and can say, okay, you are behaving like a Brahmana, we take care of you, but you are not. You have to...
Right.
He is holding so that it doesn't go.
Huh?
Yeah,
He's holding the curtain.
Holding the curtain.
See some details.
We are doing some work here. That's it. We're doing the dressing.
I see. Okay. Sit down. Make yourself comfortable. Yeah. Well, there are specific characteristics and qualities that that are meant to qualify one as a Brahmana. We know there are 6 activities that are described in the Bhagavatam. 6 qualities, 3 of which are mandatory. Now, the first one is that Brahmanas are meant to study. They're meant to seriously, regularly study Shastra, without which they cannot teach, obviously. So compulsory. It's one of the mandatory, we could say, activities or qualities that a Brahmana is someone who will spend hours and hours in regularly studying, deeply studying Shastra. Number 1. Secondly, qualified Brahmana, to recognize someone as a qualified Brahmana or to become a qualified Brahmana, one must personally worship the Lord. One must have deities. One must have at least Shaligram Shila. One must have some deity. Generally it is Shila. Generally, it could be Govardhan Shila, it could be Shaligram Shila. And one must perform worship every day. One must, by chanting mantras, by following the basics in terms of worship. So, and the third one is that Brahmana must give in charity. Must give in charity. He must give in charity because generally those who are qualified Brahmanas, they will get. And Brahmanas, they are satisfied with the minimum. So they will give.
Right.
They will get, they will give.
Right.
Yeah. So beginning with the first 2, how many, we have so many, we say Brahmanas. This is not, this white thread is not an indication of Brahmana.
Prabhupada said 2 paisa.
Yeah. You can buy it in Navadvip.
It's a kind of initiation, but...
Well, so the question is, we have so many devotees who are having, because we've not discussed about these topics sufficiently, we identify this as a Brahmana thread. But this is not a Brahmana thread.
Kshatriya also get that.
Yes. This is a sacred thread. This is a sacred thread that down the line, I guess, we'll come to understand. But Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas are meant to have sacred thread.
Dvija.
Dvija, the Dvija. So the point being, so that's the question I was going to ask, how many of our devotees who have a sacred thread? Let's call it a sacred thread. Those who have a sacred thread and who spend hours every day studying, and those who do personal service of some Shila, and those who are not accepting salary, those who wear a thread can be called Brahmanas, otherwise not.
And giving charity.
Huh?
Giving away charity.
Yeah.
They're giving their time, for example, for others, not for themselves.
Right. Yeah. Well, actually, Brahmanas should give in charity also in terms of knowledge. Because if one actually performs the activity of a Brahmana in terms of studying, deeply studying, as his main service, then he will naturally want to share that knowledge, but he will be cautious, he will be selective as to whom he shares this knowledge with. Yeah, which is totally different from modern day educational system. He will choose his students. He will test the students before.
He has to test.
Yeah, of course.
It's like teaching somebody to make atomic bomb.
Yes.
Then he just goes crazy and.
Yeah, well, it's like giving a knife to a child.
Right.
A knife is a very nice instrument, but if it is in the wrong hands, it can be bad. I mean, it can be misused and whatnot. Yeah. Knowledge is a very important tool which can be misused in the wrong hands, both material knowledge and spiritual knowledge as well. So, these are the three mandatory activities: to study, to worship, and to give in charity. And the three that are not mandatory is to teach, for Brahmanas can and ideally should be teaching, means sharing knowledge, and he should also be showing others how to worship, and he should also receive. He's the only one who should receive, actually, charity. Yeah, Kshatriyas can never receive, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Vaishyas also are not meant to receive, they're meant to produce.
It's offense. They feel offended.
Yeah.
Somebody.
Well, yeah. So that's the test. If you want to know who's the actual Kshatriya,
Right.
you find out if he'll accept money or actual.
That's actually one of the good criteria. If you feel offended when somebody is giving you, then
Right.
this means you are not Brahman. At
Right.
least.
Right.
Then you are in other two categories at least.
So, see, all of this, we cannot, we talk about it a little bit. We have some little understanding. We can gain a little understanding, but the real and the full, complete understanding will only come when we actually live the kind of lifestyle that we are meant to live. When we are away from all the modern gadgets of modern day society, when we are living close to nature, when we're living in villages largely.
Mode of goodness.
And those who will live in the cities will only be successful or will only be effective if they have received the proper training, because they won't be allured with whatever the different facilities that are there. Yeah. So that's why there's an intimate, direct, very close connection with how we live, where we live, and what we do, what occupation,
What we eat.
and what we eat, and what we breathe, and what we hear, and what we see,
Right.
etc.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And therefore it has not yet been understood. it has not yet been understood because it's not being preached. It is not being discussed. The absolute need and necessity for the vast majority of devotees and people in general to live in villages. We may seem like, fanatic. It may seem to be like a fanatic statement that the majority of people are meant to live in villages. But actually that is the Vedic norm. And when today the majority, increasingly majority of people are living in the cities, it means we are misunderstanding. It means we are going in the wrong direction. It means we are actually encouraging, even unknowingly, what is adharma, what is adharmic. Yes, because the more as we have done, as we are doing now, the more we are away from what is meant to be the norm, that means that we are increasing our neglect of cows and brahmanas,
Right.
because we're not understanding, we're not conscious.
Small children growing in city, they see it's normal.
Yes.
There is no cow on
Yeah. Milk is from the store,
from the store. Yeah.
and milk is not milk. They don't know.
Vegetable is from the store.
Yeah. So yes.
At the second level is that how to protect cows is different than how to feed the cows. So feeding
Yes.
cows is part of the protection, but not the main part. Like in people, we have to protect people, not just feeding them. So many other needs the persons have. We have to know them.
Yes, that's what we were discussing yesterday briefly on the subject matter of education.
I think
Yes.
that's why I'm just relating that even king's son, they were given to go to Gurukul to change that environment,
Yes.
to be in a different environment. To
Ashram.
learn.
Ashram.
As you said that you need a different place
Yes.
so that you can live there and then understand.
Yes.
So that's why I'm relating that
Correct.
even the king's son,
Yes.
even Krishna was
He was not raised in the palace.
right. I mean, they could have hired that. Okay, you come and teach them
Right.
here. And they said no, you go there
Correct.
because that environment is very, very important.
Yes. 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 Yes.
You told that Brahmana has to study and he has knowledge. Last year you told that about the 64 colors and the knowledge and Vyas and all those things. It means Brahmana has the all knowledge about the 64 art forms.
Yes.
And they are teaching him by the Guru and guiding him within. Like that the process. Brahmanas has knowledge about the all arts.
Yes.
And they teach. And everyone should to learn and follow. Like that.
Yeah, the brahmanas are the ones who are the teachers in society. Isn't it?
And who are the following the school? They are like śūdra, Vaishya and Kshatriya. Who are the following the school and maintaining their lifestyle.
The brahmanas are the teachers for all the varnas. So everyone is. So that's why brahmanas are so important, because they're the ones who are meant to set things straight, but with the help of kshatriyas. That's why kshatriyas are the ones who will arrange facilities. Yeah, they will. Kshatriyas, for example, understand how Krishi Goraksha is absolutely essential, and that's the means by which majority of people will nicely be engaged, and that's the means by which society will become prosperous. Prosperity is in terms of land and produce and cows, animals, etc. like that. So that's why Kshatriyas, they will give maximum importance to developing, to supporting the activities of Vaishyas.
Brahman also teach the Yuddha Vidya. And Brahman also is teaching the all skill also.
Brahmanas, they teach everything.
Teach everything.
Yes.
Yuddha Vidya and skills also.
Huh?
Yuddha Vidya and skills also. Different.
Yes.
Like different skills for, say,
Yes.
what?
Yeah. It is Sahadev. Sahadev, there's a book, we found a book we found a book that is written in very, very ancient Oriya. We've not yet been able to translate it. Well, we found a book in one very old library, I think near Jagannath Puri, because King Virata, yeah. So that's where the Pandavas were living incognito during the last year in exile. And so, so apparently, I mean, going back at that time, part of that kingdom was actually connected with Orissa. We came to know. Yeah. And so we found this very ancient manuscript. It's in Calcutta. I have a copy of it.
Okay.
I have a copy of it.
I need that. I help in translating.
Okay, well, yeah, I've been trying to find somebody to translate this book for the last 4 years.
Okay.
Without success. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So this is attributed because Sahadev was looking after the cows.
Right.
So he has all kinds of information and knowledge. It's like the Vriksha-yurveda. Vriksha-yurveda is the science of plants and trees, and all kinds of this is written by Rishi. So rishis, they know Rishi doesn't mean they just know about spiritual things. They also know about because there's a whole science in material,
astrology, astronomy,
all these things.
Just few hundred years back, we had Aryabhat, we had other all these rishis. They were teaching all this.
Yes.
Aryabhat was for mathematicians.
Yes.
So was
Now our Vaishnava rishis have become above all these things,
right.
which is not correct. Yeah, because
Prabhupada was teaching this too.
yes,
And his disciples, someone have some stomach problem, immediately he was teaching how to.
yes, yeah, yes,
He was
correct.
not thinking,
Yes.
I am just giving transcendental
Yeah.
knowledge.
Prabhupada mentions actually how traditionally, not so long ago, as you're rightly mentioning, that people would automatically seek out brahmanas because they knew that brahmanas, they know something about astrology and they know something about medicine. And everyone needs, has health issues at some point, and they need guidance from, So, I mean, that is one of the professions of a brahmana, to become Kaviraj, Ayurvedic doctor. Yeah, that is, architecture, these are brahminical type of sciences.
Alright, cows and bull. The cow and bull was abused.
Yes,
Kali-yuga.
yes,
So that's quite significant that the beginning of Kali-yuga started with the abuse of
cows and bulls, yes. And therefore, to correct that, as Prabhupada again and again emphasizes, the beginning of the solution must be cows and bulls. To re-establish or to correct the anomaly that is existing today. That's a direct statement Prabhupada mentions in the light of the Bhagavat. In the light of the Bhagavat, Prabhupada mentions those who are serious to bring about solution to the so many major problems of the world must first give attention to protection of cows and bulls. Who's doing that? Who's actually doing that? And that can only be done when we have devotees living where they can start looking after cows and bulls. It's not simply by having some goshala. That is a whole misconception also. That's a whole other topic in itself. But proper cow protection and proper protection of bulls will only come when we as devotees are in villages looking after these cows and bulls.
right.
And because that's only when we can also begin to grow properly our own food and properly care for the land and for the trees and for the forest. Yes,
Quick comment on food. Yesterday I was talking to a farmer.
yes,
He was spraying some kind of spray
yes.
to kill the grass. Where Bhagavatam was going on, I was seeing. So I happened to go and then I talked to him. He said, so what you were spraying? He said, medicine. I said, okay, medicine, they called it Oshadi.
Yeah, Yoshi.
So that the name has been given. You see how
Yeah,
the scientists are deceiving.
Right.
They are deceiving a farmer saying, this is the medicine, you take it and it will help you.
Right.
So I said, medicine if you take, you become healthier. But you are spraying, if you eat, you will die. He said, yes. Like then it is wish, not medicine, not awesome.
Correct.
Then the person standing next to farmer, he said, I said, because you are spraying, the vegetables, they are most affected. Because grains, it takes time. So it will take 90 days. So grains may be less affected by the time you cut it. But the vegetables you have just sprayed some time back and then you are selling. Next person, I mean, hear very carefully. Very important. He says, actually, those who are growing, they keep one side which they don't spray for themselves.
Yes.
And rest what they want to sell, that only they spray so that it becomes big.
It's true, very true.
Yeah.
It's
So
very
now you see all this, we call it ourselves as the city people still, because we are not growing that much. We should come to that point because we are eating everyday poison and we are offering that poison to Krishna in terms of not only vegetable, grains and milk also. Whatever milk you are getting is stored. I know because I am going to villages. It's all mixed with poison. Not to speak out adulterate, Maharaj, there is no milk actually. I think you were telling that they made a survey and they found that milk products are much more than what is produced.
Yes.
So then what type of brain we'll have? How we will understand it?
We will have no brain. We will have no understanding.
Cows are very small cows, local cows, they go for grazing and their people have very less money, so they can't spray medicine. So cows get the green grass and the milk is very sweetest milk, naturally very sweet. And they give only, she give only one quart,
Yeah.
one glass, two glass, this much.
Africa.
And very sweet milk.
Yeah.
Naturally very tasty.
I think that this lecture, Maharaj,
Very few villages are there.
should go
They
to
don't
the
use-
all city devotees. And we should all think that we should have some kind of connection with village. You live in city at this point, but try to connect with the village and farmer and bhumi and go. Maharaj, you can make that appeal because this is going live and
Well,
thousands of devotees will be seeing.
that is, we've been mentioning how every city temple must have a department for village development. Devotees who are dedicated to go to the villages. But they need to be trained first before they go to villages.
Right.
What are we going to do in villages? What's the problem? Or, isn't it? So, unless we read these types of purports that are everywhere, especially in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, but yes, unless our devotees themselves understand that we have to go to the root of the problem. That's Prabhupada is making the point here. The root cause of the problem we have today started 5,000 years ago with the neglect of cows and bulls. And therefore cows and bulls are very quickly disappearing from villages. I was doing surveys just a few years ago, and in many villages I personally saw there are no more bulls. I mean, it is in many ways practically, in many ways practically, I don't know how it's going to happen, we could say irreversible, because we are now at this stage where the last farmers who know something about farming are we are now with the last generation of farmers.
Yes, because I know all these village boys, young boys from 18 to 30.
No interest.
Maharaj, they don't know.
Yeah, right.
They don't know at all what is being grown there.
Yes.
Because they all are internet
Yeah,
YouTube,
yeah.
and they all want to go to city, and they're going there and making work with construction and factories. That's it.
So we are having a perfect formula. Perfect formula.
Let everybody hear that, that look, that there is no farmer now left.
We have since many years in absolute ignorance. Ignorance is bliss. In absolute ignorance, we are actually working on the perfect formula for mass destruction.
Right.
This has been discussed, and it is known to people who are understanding what is taking place. But we are preparing the planet now. We are preparing the planet for mass destruction. Actually, this has been studied and whatnot, what they call, I forget the exact term, but there have been 5 or 6 global mass destructions of either species or even of humanity in the past. And we are on the verge of that right now. And we're totally, for the vast majority, totally oblivious, totally ignorant of what is taking place. So that's why Prabhupada, 50 years ago, was talking about we are living in very dangerous times. And we just don't understand the reason and the urgency why we need to go back to villages. Because villages, people in the city, where do they get? They get their food from the village.
Right.
But as you rightly mentioned,
Poison.
people are sending them poison, and it's all very colorful and very attractive, but it's all poison. So therefore, it's more than high time for people to wake up to these realities. Yeah. It's beyond critical. It's beyond critical. And it's beyond 7 o'clock, so we have to put an end. We'll continue tomorrow. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Jai Sri Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna. Even the garlands we offer to the deities and then offer to our speakers